Hello, I'm Darren from Real Python, and in this series of videos you're going to see 11 beginner tips for learning Python programming. You're going to look at how to code every day, how writing it out can help, going interactive, taking breaks, becoming a bug bounty hunter, surrounding yourself with others who are learning, teaching, pair programming, asking good questions, building something, anything, and contributing to open source. Let's get started by looking at coding every day. This is really important because it helps you build the muscle memory you need to program. It's much like learning a musical instrument or any other skill. Little and often is better than one large chunk a week. If you only had an hour a week to spare, you would be much better off spending 10 minutes on 6 days of the week and having a day off than doing 1 hour, 1 day of the week and having 6 days off. Leaving a long time before you practice any new skill can mean it will be lost to you and you'll end up having to recover the same ground again and again, whereas covering it every day for a week will help you retain it much better, and then longer gaps afterwards won't be so much of a problem. Secondly, set a timetable. Again, this is totally dependent on the amount of time you have, but if you're fortunate enough to have, say, a day a week, look at the areas you want to study and write a timetable and try to stick to it. After a few weeks, you can review that timetable and see which areas you need to spend more time on, which areas you need to spend less time on. Don't be afraid to adapt it to the amount of time you need and how much time you need to spend on each subject. Many a time, the areas that we want to work on turn out to be more difficult than we thought, or maybe you need to look at the underlying maths or other theory behind it. Don't be afraid of this. This is the same for everybody. But this brings me on to the next point. Being realistic about the time that you have for this. Everyone's different. Everyone's starting from a different point. Everyone will end up at a different point. And everyone has different demands on their time and resources throughout the week and the year. Some people can spend a lot of time and will be able to make more progress than someone who only has an hour or two spare a week. So being realistic about this and not beating yourself up over it is a really important thing. Remember, it's not about comparing yourself to other people, it's about comparing yourself to where you started. One tip I've found really useful on this is solving small problems as time allows. If you've only got 10 minutes to spare in a day, it's unlikely you'll be able to do something really complicated, but you might be able to solve a simple problem with a little bit of difficulty to it and engineer something interesting and useful to you. There are many sites on the internet that allow for competitive coding, and while I'm not a fan of the idea of competing against people when learning a skill, it can be really useful to look at the resources that they have there. They can often have graded puzzles for you to solve, and you can pick a level of difficulty that's suitable for your ability and the time you have available. By repeatedly solving these problems, you'll gain skills and learn new areas of Python that you didn't know before. And it can give you great confidence in being able to approach more difficult problems further down the line. Write it out. Now here's something you may not be expecting. Writing out notes helps you to retain information better than any other method. Yes, handwritten notes really do help. When the information passes through you as you read it and then rewrite it in your own words, your brain takes it in a method that you understand, and this is the most important part of learning. There will be different areas which you need to concentrate on and make notes on compared to somebody next to you. Also, planning for programs with written notes can help make the solution clearer. Again, here I've found that writing things out by hand is much more helpful and much more immediate than doing it using a computer. While for complicated, large programs which would need a lot of documentation, you would want to do this online in a method that can be updated later on. When you're initially planning this out, writing out the kind of data and variables you're going to need can be really, really important and instructive. You can run through the way you think the program should work on paper, and then once you've worked out any problems there, you can then try and do it at the computer. It's often easier to create visual representations when working with paper and pencil, and for many problems, this is a useful way to approach them. If you're doing this with a note-taking app, often you can spend more time worrying about the quality of your programming of the notes rather than the solution that you're supposed to be working on. Go interactive. Python shell, or REPL, is a great way to instantly examine and create code. If you haven't used it before, you're going to see a quick introduction to it now. So here you are in the command prompt or terminal, and to launch Python, you either type Python or Python 3 depending on how your system's configured. And here you are in the Python shell. You can create variables in the normal way, but one thing you may not be aware of is you don't need a print statement to see the result of what you do in the REPL. Here if I type A plus B and hit enter, it gives us the result straight away. One useful part of this is you can see the difference between a string and an int straight away. So if I just hit A at the moment, we see 7, but if I make A into the string 7 and type A again, we can see straight away that it's a string, meaning we're less likely to get confused as to whether we're dealing with a number or a string. As you've seen, it's quick and easy to create code in the Python shell, but you can also use it to discover and explore the methods that are available to you. Now you can see this in action. An important part of learning Python is understanding the methods which are available to you on objects that you've created. So for instance, in the case of strings, as we'll see here, there are a number of methods which allow you to manipulate the string quickly and easily without you having to create that method yourself. Now you're going to see that in action. Firstly, create a string. And next, to find out what methods are available, use the dir command with the object inside the brackets. There you can see a list of the methods which are available for that string. Now don't be concerned about the ones which have double underscores at the beginning. These are often called dunder methods, and while they'll be important to you later on in your career, at the moment, don't you concern yourself too much with them. However, there are quite a few useful methods, as you can see towards the end of the list. One we're going to take a look at right now is upper. This capitalizes the string. So just applying a.upper gives us a capitalized version of the string. Another one is split. Split splits the string on a character that you choose. If you don't give it one, it will split that string on a space. So here we will see it will return a list of hello and there. These built-in methods can be really useful, and it's important to know what's there so you don't waste time duplicating something which already exists within Python itself. Remember, you don't have to create an instance of the object to see what it can do. So here we can do dir and then int. And we can see that mostly it's those dunder methods, but there are a few available to us. And let's have a look at float. And see, similarly there, mostly they're dunder methods, but there are a few available which you can make use of straight away. Another important part of the shell is that you can obtain help using the help command. Now let's see that in action. Having access to help about Python commands and functions is really useful, and it's accessed really easily just with the word help. We put the object in question we want, in this case int, and then hit enter, and we're taken into the help viewer. So we can see here that int is an object, and if we scroll down using the cursor keys, we can see that there are methods defined, and you can see all those dunder methods which we saw earlier on. If you want to move down faster, you can use the space bar to move down a screen at a time. And B moves you backwards a screen at a time. When you've found the information you want, press Q to quit back to the Python shell.